First contact's price. The anomaly appeared on Deep Space Monitor Station Theta's sensors at 300 hours Earth Standard Time. At first, the computer flagged it as routine space debris, perhaps another collection of ancient satellites or spacecraft parts from humanity's early ventures into space. But senior analyst Maya Patel knew better. "Director, you need to see this," Maya called out, her eyes fixed on the shifting patterns of light that danced across her holographic display. The movement was too orderly, too purposeful to be debris. Director Marcus Way appeared behind her workstation within seconds, his usual composed demeanor showing cracks of concern as he studied the data. "How many?" "At least 300 distinct objects, sir. They're maintaining perfect formation despite traveling at 15C. That's impossible for natural phenomena." Way's expression hardened. "Send everything to UNDF Command. Priority Alpha." Within hours, the United Nations Defense Force's highest-ranking officers gathered in the Emergency Response Center beneath Geneva. Commander Sarah Chen stood before the assembled admirals and generals, her prototype stealth destroyer schematics floating in the air behind her. The HMS Shadowkeeper was designed for deep space reconnaissance, she explained, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "We can observe these visitors without being detected." Admiral Santos leaned forward. "You're certain about that, Commander? We have no idea what their detection capabilities might be. The Shadowkeeper uses quantum displacement technology. Dr. Mueller's team has successfully tested it against every detection method we know of. We're as invisible as physics allows." The Admiral nodded slowly. "Very well. You have authorization to proceed. But, Commander..." He paused, making sure he had her full attention. "If they show any hostile intent toward Earth, you are not to engage. We need intelligence, not heroics." 12 hours later, Sarah stood on the Shadowkeeper's bridge, watching her crew perform final launch checks. The ship was unlike anything humanity had built before, all smooth curves and dark materials that absorbed rather than reflected light. Even its engine signature was masked, the waste heat captured and stored rather than released into space. "All systems green, Commander," reported Lieutenant Raj Kapoor from the tactical station. "Quantum displacement field is stable. Take us out, Helm. Nice and easy." The Shadowkeeper slipped from its orbital dock like a shadow detaching from darkness. As they accelerated toward the incoming objects, Sarah felt a mix of excitement and dread. Humanity's first contact with an alien civilization was about to happen, for better or worse. They intercepted the alien fleet near Saturn's orbit. Up close, the vessels were beautiful in their alienness, crystalline structures that seemed to flow and shift, capturing and refracting the distant sunlight. "Energy readings are off the charts," Raj reported. "Whatever their power source is, it makes our fusion reactors look like chemical batteries." Sarah was about to respond when new data flashed across her displays. The alien fleet had changed course, heading directly toward the sun. "What are they?" she began, but the answer became clear as the fleet deployed massive structures around their ships. The devices looked like enormous solar panels, but they were absorbing energy at impossible rates. "Commander," called Dr. Emily Nash from the science station, her voice tight with concern. "They're not just collecting solar energy. They're draining the sun itself. At this rate, they'll reduce its lifespan by thousands of years." Sarah felt her blood run cold. "Show me the projections." The data painted a grim picture. These beings, whoever they were, had the technology to accelerate stellar aging. They were literally feeding on stars, and Earth's sun was their latest target. "Send everything back to command," Sarah ordered. "But first, get me detailed scans of their technology. If we have to fight them, we need to understand what we're up against." For 3 tense hours, they observed the alien fleet's operation. The Shadowkeeper sensors recorded every detail, every energy signature, every communication pattern they could detect. But their luck couldn't last forever. A sudden alarm blared through the bridge. "Energy spike," Raj shouted. They're scanning this sector. Evasive maneuvers, Sarah commanded, but it was too late. A beam of coherent energy, like no weapon they'd ever seen, lanced out from the nearest alien vessel. It caught the Shadowkeeper's port side, slicing through their quantum displacement field like it wasn't there. Hull breach on Deck 3. The damage control officer reported. Quantum field is failing. Sarah made a split-second decision. If they were compromised anyway, they might as well get something useful out of it. Tactical. Target their energy collection arrays. Fire everything we have. The Shadowkeeper's railguns spat hypersonic projectiles, while plasma torpedoes streaked toward the alien vessels. To everyone's surprise, several shots made it through. The nearest energy collector shattered, its crystalline structure breaking apart in a spectacular display. The alien response was immediate and overwhelming. Dozens of energy beams converged on their position. Sarah had only seconds to act. "Emergency jump," she ordered. "Get us out of here." The Shadowkeeper's experimental quantum drive engaged, tearing a hole in space-time. They emerged near Mars, systems damaged but intact. More importantly, they had data. Data that proved Earth faced an existential threat. As they limped back to Earth, Sarah composed her report to command. The words felt heavy as she typed them. First contact established with advanced alien civilization. Technology level far exceeds current human capabilities. Intent appears hostile. They are systematically harvesting stellar energy with no regard for inhabited systems. Earth's sun is targeted for extraction. Recommend immediate mobilization of all defense forces and acceleration of Project Phantom. Time is not on our side. She looked out at the stars, the same stars these beings were slowly killing, and made a silent promise. Humanity would not go quietly into their artificial night. They would fight, innovate, and find a way to survive. They always had. The real question was, how do you fight an enemy that devours stars? The ghost ship. Dr. James Mueller stood in the center of Project Phantom's main laboratory, surrounded by holographic schematics of what would become humanity's most advanced warship. The destruction of the Shadowkeeper had taught them valuable lessons, lessons written in the blood of good people. The quantum displacement field wasn't enough. He explained to the assembled engineers and military officials. The Vraks. That's what we're calling them based on their communication patterns. They can detect the micro-distortions in space-time our technology creates. Admiral Santos raised an eyebrow. "So what's your solution, Doctor?" James smiled, manipulating the hologram to show a new design. "We stop trying to hide from space-time distortions and instead become one with them." The hologram shifted, showing a ship design unlike anything ever conceived. Instead of trying to be invisible to detection, this vessel would appear to sensors as a natural space-time anomaly, the kind of thing any sensible ship would avoid. "We're calling it the HMS Phantom," James continued. "Instead of bending light around the ship or masking our energy signatures, we're going to exist in a state of quantum uncertainty. To any observer, we'll look like a dangerous natural phenomenon." Lieutenant Commander Zora Chen, Sarah Chen's younger sister, stepped forward, her eyes scanning the technical specifications. "How do we fire weapons from this state? Won't they give away our position?" "That's the beautiful part," James replied, bringing up another diagram. "We've reverse-engineered some of the principles behind the Vrak's energy weapons. They don't just fire energy beams. They temporarily alter the fundamental forces in a localized area. We can do something similar, but better." For the next 6 months, Project Phantom worked around the clock. The best minds from every nation contributed, setting aside old rivalries in the face of extinction. The Vrak's fleet hadn't returned to Sol yet, but long-range sensors showed them methodically harvesting stars in nearby systems. Finally, after countless setbacks and breakthroughs, the HMS Phantom took shape in its orbital construction dock. The ship seemed to flicker in and out of existence, its hull comprised of materials that shouldn't exist according to conventional physics. Zara stood on the bridge of the completed vessel, now its commanding officer. Her crew had been handpicked and trained on systems that defied traditional understanding of space combat. "Final systems check," she ordered, watching as her crew moved through their stations with practiced precision. "Quantum core stable," reported Chief Engineer Yuki Tanaka. "Reality displacement field operating within parameters. Weapon systems online," added Tactical Officer Miguel Rodriguez. "Phase cannons charged and ready." Zara took a deep breath. "Begin undocking procedure. Let's see what this ghost can do." The Phantom detached from its dock, immediately shifting into its quantum uncertain state. On nearby ship's sensors, it would appear as a region of space to be avoided, a natural hazard that any sensible navigator would plot a course around. Their first mission was to observe a Vrax harvesting operation in a neighboring system. As they approached the target at FTL speeds, Zara couldn't help but remember her sister's last transmission from the Shadowkeeper. This time, they would be ready. The Phantom dropped out of FTL near a red dwarf star. 3 Vrax vessels were already in position, their massive energy collectors deployed. But something was different this time. "Captain," called out Science Officer Dr. Lisa Wong, "I'm detecting signs of civilization in this system. A planet in the habitable zone shows evidence of industrial development." Zara's jaw tightened. "Can you determine their level of advancement?" "Pre-spaceflight, but they're close. Maybe a century away from their first interstellar missions. And if the Vrax drain their star..." Lisa's voice was quiet. "They'll never get the chance. The civilization will die long before they reach the stars." Zara watched the Vrax ships work, their crystalline structures spreading out like deadly flowers. The Phantom's sensors recorded everything, gathering data that would be crucial for humanity's defense. But as she watched another star being slowly killed, Zara made a decision. "Tactical, load test package Alpha into the phase cannons. Science, I want detailed scans of their collector array's structural weak points." Her crew looked at her in surprise. These weren't their orders. They were supposed to observe only. "Captain," Miguel said carefully, "Command was explicit about non-engagement. Command also tasked us with testing our weapons in real-world conditions," Zara replied. "I'd say this qualifies. Besides, we can't just watch them condemn an entire civilization to death." The bridge was silent for a moment before Miguel smiled. "Phase cannons ready on your order, Captain." The Phantom moved into position, still appearing as nothing more than a spatial anomaly to Vrax sensors. Their new weapons were based on the same principles as Vrax technology, but taken in a different direction. Instead of brute force energy beams, they fired packets of altered spacetime that could theoretically bypass any conventional defense. "Target the central collector array," Zara ordered. "Fire." The phase cannon discharge, its beam invisible to normal light, but devastating in its effects. Where it struck the Vrax collector, reality itself seemed to hiccup. The crystalline structure didn't so much break as cease to exist in that location. The Vrax response was immediate but confused. Their energy beams fired in all directions, trying to hit an enemy they couldn't properly detect. The Phantom slipped between their attacks like a ghost through walls. "Second target locked," Miguel reported. "Ready to fire." "Hit them." Another collector vanished, and then another. The Vrax ships began to retreat, their harvesting operation abandoned. As they fled, Zora ordered a final scan of their vessels. "Send everything back to command," she ordered. "And add a personal note. The weapons work. The stealth systems work. We can fight them." As the Phantom set course for home, Zora looked at the red dwarf star, still shining, still giving life to its planets. They had saved one star, one civilization. But the real war was just beginning. In her quarters later, she reviewed the sensor logs. The Vrax ships had shown signs of damage they hadn't expected from primitive humans. Good. Let them worry. Let them wonder. The ghost ship had shown its fangs, and the hunters had become the hunted. Impossible victory. The Vraks returned to Sol with a fleet that darkened space. Over 1,000 ships, their crystalline structures reflecting distant starlight like an artificial constellation. This wasn't a harvesting mission. It was an extermination force. Multiple quantum wakes detected, reported Tactical Officer Rodriguez aboard the Phantom. They're deploying throughout the system. Captain Zora Chen watched the tactical display as red dots appeared around every major planet. The Vraks weren't just targeting Earth. They meant to sterilize the entire solar system. Status of the defense fleet? She asked, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. All ships in position, her XO, Commander David Foster, replied. 30 Phantom-class vessels hidden in the quantum foam. Another 50 conventional warships waiting behind Mars. The orbital defense platforms are powered up and ready. Humanity had spent the last 6 months preparing for this moment. Every scrap of data from their previous encounters with the Vraks had been analyzed, every technology reverse-engineered and improved upon. They were outnumbered 20-1, but they had something the Vraks didn't expect. Desperation-fueled innovation. All Phantom-class vessels, initiate Operation Starfall. Zara commanded. Conventional fleet, hold position, and wait for the signal. The battlefield was silent for several minutes as the Vraks fleet moved into harvesting formation around the sun. Their energy collectors began to deploy, massive crystalline arrays unfurling like deadly flowers. They're beginning their stellar tap sequence, Science Officer Wong reported. Energy buildup detected in their primary collectors. Zora allowed herself a small smile. Perfect. Execute primary attack pattern. 30 Phantom-class ships shifted from their quantum uncertain state into perfect firing position. The Vraks never saw them coming. Phase cannons fired in perfect synchronization, their reality warping beams striking the massive collection arrays. The effect was catastrophic. Without their collectors to channel the solar energy, the Vraks ships' power systems overloaded. Several vessels simply ceased to exist, their matter converted to energy in spectacular bursts of light. First wave successful, Rodriguez reported. Vraks fleet is responding. They're launching some kind of countermeasure. Thousands of small devices erupted from the Vraks ships, spreading out in a complex pattern. As they activated, they began to stabilize local spacetime, creating zones where the Phantom-class ships' quantum uncertainty couldn't function. Clever, Zora muttered. But we planned for this. Execute Protocol Omega. The human fleet's response was unprecedented. Instead of trying to maintain their quantum state, the Phantom-class vessels began rapidly shifting between normal space and their uncertain state, creating a cascade of spatial distortions that overwhelmed the Vraks stabilizers. Multiple Vraks vessels showing signs of confusion, Wong reported. Their targeting systems can't lock onto our shifting signatures. The battle devolved into a dance of technology and tactics. The Vraks had superior numbers and raw power, but humanity's ships were fighting in ways that defied conventional physics. Every time the aliens adapted to one strategy, the human fleet would shift to another. They're regrouping, Foster observed, forming defensive spheres around their command ships. Zara nodded. Just as the simulations predicted. Signal the conventional fleet. Begin Phase 2. The 50 human warships behind Mars suddenly launched thousands of small objects. To Vraks sensors, they appeared to be debris or missiles. In reality, they were quantum displacement generators, devices designed to create localized pockets of uncertain spacetime. As these devices activated near the Vraks' defensive formations, their carefully coordinated movements began to break down. Ships that relied on precise positioning found themselves randomly displaced by meters or kilometers, their formation dissolving into chaos. Now, Zara ordered. All ships, execute attack pattern Delta. The combined human fleet struck from multiple vectors. Conventional weapons mixed with phase cannons and quantum torpedoes. The Vraks' technological superiority meant nothing when they couldn't effectively target their weapons or maintain their defensive formations. Enemy fleet showing signs of widespread systems failure, Rodriguez reported, excitement creeping into his voice. Their quantum communications are breaking down. The battle reached its crescendo as the remaining Vrax ships attempted to retreat. But humanity had one final surprise waiting. The orbital defense platforms around Earth activated, creating a massive quantum interference field that disrupted the aliens faster than light drives. "They're trapped," Foster said quietly. "What are your orders, Captain?" Zara stood from her command chair, watching the tactical display as the Vrax fleet foundered. "Open a channel to their command ship. All frequencies, all protocols." For several tense moments, nothing happened. Then, suddenly, a response came through. The bridge crew got their first clear look at a Vrax, a crystalline being that seemed to shift and flow like living glass. "You have achieved what we thought impossible." The alien's translated voice came through. "Our analysis suggested your species was centuries away from quantum manipulation technology." "We're full of surprises," Zara replied. "Now let's discuss terms. You will leave this system, never return, and cease all stellar harvesting operations in inhabited systems. Or," the Vrax commander asked, "or we demonstrate exactly how many more surprises we have waiting. Your choice." The silence that followed was heavy with possibility. Finally, the Vrax spoke again. "We have much to discuss, humans. Perhaps there is more to learn from your species than we initially believed." As the surrender negotiations began, Zara looked out at the battlefield. Humanity had just accomplished the impossible. They had defeated a technologically superior force through innovation, desperation, and sheer determination. But as she watched the remaining Vrax ships power down their weapons, she couldn't help but wonder, was this really victory, or just the beginning of something much more complex? The negotiating table. The Geneva Peace Conference Center had never hosted delegates quite like these. Through the reinforced windows, crystalline Vrax ships hovered in the sky alongside human vessels, their presence a constant reminder of both the recent conflict and the fragile peace. Dr. Elena Santos, Earth's chief negotiator, sat across from the Vrax delegation. Their crystalline forms shifted colors as they communicated among themselves, creating patterns that the best human xenolinguists were still struggling to fully understand. "Let us speak plainly," the lead Vrax representative, who had taken the name Crystal Song, said through the quantum translator. "Our civilization requires vast amounts of energy to survive. Without stellar harvesting, we face extinction." Elena leaned forward, her dark eyes reflecting the shimmer of the Vrax delegates. "That's precisely why we've called this session. Our scientific team has prepared a presentation that might interest you." Dr. James Mueller stepped forward, activating a holographic display. "What you're about to see is the culmination of 6 months of research, combining human innovation with what we've learned from studying Vrax technology." The hologram showed a new type of energy collection system, one that didn't drain stars, but instead tapped into the quantum foam of space itself. The Vrax delegates' crystalline forms flickered with patterns that the translators interpreted as intense interest. "Impossible," Crystal Song stated. "The energy density of quantum foam is too diffuse to be practically harvested." James smiled. "That's what we thought too, until we combined your crystalline collection technology with our quantum uncertainty drives. Watch this." The hologram shifted to show actual test footage. A small collector, no larger than a satellite, was producing enough energy to power a small city. The Vrax delegates' colors shifted rapidly, their equivalent of excited whispers. "This is how we powered our Phantom-class ships," Elena explained. "No stellar harvesting required. And we're willing to share this technology with conditions." "What conditions?" Crystal Song asked, their form pulsing with cautious interest. "First, an immediate end to all stellar harvesting operations in inhabited systems," Elena stated firmly. "Second, joint research projects to further develop this technology. Third, reparations to the civilizations whose stars you've already damaged." The Vrax delegates communicated among themselves in rapid pulses of light. Finally, Crystal Song spoke again. Your species continues to surprise us. When we first detected your civilization, we dismissed you as primitive. Yet in mere months, you developed countermeasures to our technology that took us millennia to perfect. Necessity breeds innovation, Elena replied. When faced with extinction, humans tend to become remarkably creative. We are beginning to understand this, Crystal Song acknowledged. But there is something we must show you in return, something that explains our urgency. The Vracs activated their own holographic display, showing a massive dark object moving between the stars. This is what we flee from. We call it the Void Drinker. It consumes not just stars, but the very fabric of space-time itself. It has already devoured thousands of galaxies in other regions of space. The human delegation sat in stunned silence as they watched the simulation of this cosmic horror's path of destruction. Helena glanced at James, who was already furiously taking notes and running calculations. How long? Elena asked. At its current pace, it will reach this galaxy in approximately 10,000 of your years, Crystal Song replied. We have been searching for a way to stop it, or at least slow it down. That is why we harvest stars, to power our research and our attempts to develop weapons against it. Elena stood up, her decision made. Then we face this threat together. Human creativity combined with Vracs technology and knowledge. We'll find a way to stop it. You would help us. Crystal Song's form flickered with surprise. Even after we nearly destroyed your star. That's another thing about humans, Elena smiled. We're remarkably good at turning enemies into allies when faced with a common threat. The negotiations continued for weeks. Teams of human and Vrac scientists began working together, combining their technologies in ways neither species had imagined possible. The quantum foam collectors were just the beginning. On the Phantom's bridge, Captain Zura Chen watched as Vrax engineers worked alongside her crew, upgrading the ship's systems with a hybrid of both species' technology. The vessel that had once been humanity's last hope was becoming something entirely new, a symbol of cooperation rather than conflict. The quantum core modifications are complete, reported Chief Engineer Tanaka, working side by side with a Vrax technician. Power output is 300% above previous maximum. The Void Drinker won't know what hit it, Commander Foster added, studying the new tactical displays. Zara nodded, but her mind was already racing ahead to the challenges they would face. The battle for survival had transformed into something far more complex, a race to save not just one species or one star system, but the entire galaxy. As she watched human and Vrax crews working together, she couldn't help but wonder, perhaps this was the true purpose of First Contact. Not conflict, not conquest, but the forging of alliances in the face of cosmic threats that no species could face alone. The stars outside seemed brighter somehow, as if acknowledging the unprecedented cooperation taking place beneath them. The silent stars were silent no longer. They had become witnesses to the birth of something new. Tomorrow's dawn. 1 year after the Battle of Sol, the combined human-Vrax fleet emerged from quantum space near a dying star. The HMS Phantom led the formation, its hybrid systems humming with power that would have seemed impossible just months ago. Target star matches parameters, Science Officer Wong announced, her station now augmented with crystalline Vrax technology. Stellar decay at 60%, approximately 300 million sentient beings in the system. Captain Zora Chen nodded, glancing at her Vrax co-commander, Bright Harmony. The crystalline being pulsed with determination. This mission would prove whether their combined technologies could actually save dying stars, not just harvest them. Deploy the quantum foam collectors, Zara ordered. Around the Phantom, 30 ships, a mix of human and Vrax designs, moved into formation. Each vessel carried a piece of the massive energy collection array they had spent months designing. All ships reporting ready, Commander Foster announced. Quantum synchronization at optimal levels. Zara took a deep breath. Begin Operation Rebirth. The fleet's collectors activated simultaneously, their crystalline surfaces rippling with energy. But unlike the old Vrax technology that drained stars, these devices tapped into the quantum foam of space itself, creating a cascade of energy that flowed toward the dying star. Energy transfer stable, reported Chief Engineer Tanaka. Stellar core temperature rising. On the bridge's main display, they watched as their combined technology did what neither species could have accomplished alone. The dying star began to stabilize, its corona strengthening as new energy flowed into its core. "It's working," Bright Harmony's translator conveyed, their crystalline form glowing with excitement. "The stellar rejuvenation process is proceeding exactly as our simulations predicted." For 3 days, they maintained the energy transfer. The inhabitants of the system's planets, who had been preparing for an exodus they couldn't possibly complete in time, watched in awe as their sun grew stronger rather than weaker. But this was more than just a rescue mission. Every bit of data they gathered would be crucial for their bigger challenge: finding a way to stop the Void Drinker. In her quarters during a break, Zura reviewed the latest reports from Earth. The changes over the past year still amazed her. Vrax crystal technology had revolutionized everything from computing to medicine. Human quantum mechanics had given the Vrax new ways to perceive and manipulate reality. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. Dr. James Mueller entered, carrying a data crystal that pulsed with complex patterns. "Captain, you need to see this," he said, inserting the crystal into her desk's hybrid interface. "We've been analyzing the quantum wake patterns from our stellar rejuvenation process." The holographic display showed complex mathematical models that combined human quantum mechanics with Vrax crystal harmonics. "The energy patterns we're creating," James explained, "they don't just restore stars. They strengthen the very fabric of space-time." Zara's eyes widened as she understood the implications. "You think we could use this against the Void Drinker?" "Better," James smiled. "We might be able to heal the damage it's already done. The Vrax physicists believe we could potentially restore entire regions of space that were thought lost forever." The door chimed again, and Alina Santos entered with Crystal Song. The human diplomat and Vrax ambassador had become an inseparable team, touring the galaxy to bring more species into their alliance. "We've received responses from 12 more civilizations," Alina announced. "They've all agreed to join the Galactic Defense Initiative. The Arcturians are particularly interested in our quantum foam collection technology." Crystal Song's form shimmered with approval. "The alliance grows faster than we dared hope. Already, our combined knowledge exceeds what any one species could have achieved alone." Zara turned back to the view of the rejuvenated star, its healthy glow a testament to what cooperation could achieve. "How long until the Void Drinker reaches the galaxy's edge?" 9,842 years, James replied. "But with each new species that joins us, with each technological breakthrough we achieve together, that number becomes less threatening." "Because we'll be ready," Alina added. "Humanity's creativity, Vrax precision, Arcturian energy manipulation, and whatever other gifts our new allies bring to the table." The Phantom's quantum core hummed, a sound that now contained harmonics of both human and Vrax technology. Outside, the saved star shone brightly, its light reaching out to touch countless worlds that would now have a future. "Send word to the fleet," Zora commanded. "Operation Rebirth is a success. We move on to the next system tomorrow." As her crew and their Vrax counterparts celebrated, Zora thought about how far they'd come. A year ago, humanity had faced extinction. Now they were part of something greater. A coalition of species working together to save not just stars, but the very fabric of space-time itself. The silent stars weren't so silent anymore. They sang with the combined efforts of multiple civilizations, all working together to ensure that light would continue to shine in the darkness. And somewhere out there, in the vast darkness between galaxies, the Void Drinker moved ever closer. But when it finally arrived, it wouldn't find easy prey. It would find unified galaxies, defended by technologies and alliances it could never have anticipated. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: Humanity had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors or victims, but as innovators, mediators, and protectors. The impossible had become possible, and the possible had become a promise for tomorrow. As the Phantom set course for their next mission, Zura smiled. The real adventure was just beginning.